In 399 BC, Socrates was brought to trial in Athens, not for theft nor for treason, but for corrupting the youth and disrespecting the city's gods. In other words, for asking too many questions. For years, he walked the streets interrogating politicians, poets, and ordinary citizens, challenging certainties, dismantling empty speeches, and exposing contradictions. He didn't offer ready-made answers. He just forced people to think. And that was unforgivable. Athens prided itself on being the city of reason and freedom. But when someone took that freedom to its final consequences, the same citizens who called themselves lovers of truth turned against him. The accusation was just a formality. Socrates' real crime was exposing the moral hypocrisy of a cowardly society. The men who condemned him didn't fear he was wrong. They feared he was right. They feared losing the comfort of their certainties, the security of consensus, the mask of virtue that hid their own ignorance. By eliminating him, they weren't defending morality. They were defending themselves from the discomfort of thinking for themselves. Nietzsche saw in episodes like this the essence of herd morality, when the majority, incapable of sustaining their own freedom, unite to silence those who dare to live or think authentically. Cowards don't attack alone. They protect themselves behind collective morality and, together, destroy those who force them to face their own smallness. Think about how many times you've seen someone follow a moral rule just because everyone follows it. How many people actually stop to ask why that thing is right or wrong? The truth is that most people don't want that responsibility. It's easier, safer, more comfortable to repeat what's always been said. And when someone comes along questioning these certainties, the herd turns against that person. Not because they're wrong, but because they remind the herd of something terrible. They never thought for themselves. Morality became a safe place, a shelter. When you follow the rules everyone follows, nobody can accuse you of anything. You're protected. If something goes wrong, it's not your fault, it's the rules' fault. If someone questions you, you have the crowd on your side. Morality functions as a shield that allows people to live without ever having to face their own decisions. Nietzsche realized this with frightening clarity. Many people aren't moral because they're good, but because they're afraid to be free. Following the group's morality is avoiding the weight of choosing, of making mistakes, of taking responsibility for your own convictions. And this escape is disguised as virtue. When you accept ready-made morality, you're also accepting not to think. You're saying that other people, in the past or present, know better than you what's right. You hand over your freedom of choice in exchange for comfortable certainty. The problem is that this certainty is false. It only exists while nobody questions it. When someone asks why a moral rule exists, when someone dares to think differently, the house of cards collapses. And people hate that. They hate it because they were forced to see that they were living on autopilot, repeating empty words, pretending to have convictions they never truly tested. Morality, in this sense, isn't elevation. It's organized cowardice. But there's something even deeper. True freedom is scary, because being truly free means you can no longer blame anyone for your choices. You can no longer say you were just following orders, following rules, following what everyone does. Being free is standing alone before your own decisions, and that's terrifying for those who never learned to think for themselves. Imposed morality offers something that many people prefer to freedom: the tranquility of never having to decide anything truly important. You just obey, and with that, you avoid the abyss that is total responsibility for your own life. Freedom demands courage. It demands that you look inside yourself and ask what you truly believe, not what you were taught to believe. It demands that you face the possibility of being wrong, of being judged, of being alone. Most people run from this. They prefer the security of collective morality, even if that morality is empty, even if it's just a set of ready-made phrases that everyone repeats without thinking. The fear of freedom is so great that people are willing to live entire lives without ever truly being themselves. And when someone shows up living authentically, living outside these automatic rules, that person becomes a threat. because they represent everything the others didn't have the courage to be. Think about how many times you've seen a group unite to attack someone. It could be on social media, it could be at work, it could be at school. There's always that person who thinks differently, who acts differently, who questions. And what happens? The group closes ranks and starts attacking. But notice this carefully. These attacks almost always come disguised as morality. People don't say they're attacking because they feel threatened. They say they're defending values, principles, what's right. Morality becomes a weapon used by cowards who can't face their own insecurities, so they attack those who dare to be different. This dynamic is dark, but extremely common. Entire groups unite around morality, not to be better, but to attack together. Because attacking as a group is safe. You're not alone, you have the majority on your side. And when you have the majority on your side, you feel entitled to destroy whoever is outside the consensus. Collective morality legitimizes violence. It allows ordinary people to become cruel because they believe they're on the side of good. Nietzsche saw this clearly. Herd morality isn't about goodness, it's about control. It's about forcing everyone to think alike, act alike, feel alike, and whoever doesn't fit in gets crushed. What makes this so dangerous is that people truly believe they're right. They don't see their own cowardice. They don't realize they're attacking someone because that person makes them feel uncomfortable. They firmly believe they're defending good, and that's exactly why they're so ruthless. A coward who knows they're a coward might feel shame, but a coward who thinks they're virtuous, that one has no limits. They'll destroy lives thinking they're making the world a better place, and all this cruelty is disguised as justice, as morality, as virtue. This herd morality that Nietzsche criticized so much has a very clear function, keeping everyone in the same line. It doesn't exist to elevate people, but to level them. To ensure that nobody steps out of the pattern, that nobody thinks too differently, that nobody challenges the consensus. It's a powerful social control instrument because it works from the inside out. You don't need a dictator telling you what to do. You have the pressure of everyone around you, pushing you to think like they think. And if you don't think that way, you're the enemy. Throughout history, we've seen this happen repeatedly. Entire societies organize themselves around moral rules that everyone must follow. Whoever follows is accepted. Whoever questions is expelled, attacked, or killed. Universal morality, the kind that says everyone must live the same way, functions as a tool of predictability. When everyone thinks alike, you know what to expect. When everyone acts alike, you can control. Diversity of thought, individual authenticity, the freedom to create your own values, all of this is a threat to those who want to maintain the established order. That's why herd morality punishes so violently those who dare to be different. Today, we see this happening in new ways, but the essence is the same. People are domesticated to think there's only one right way to live, to act, to feel, and whoever lives outside of that is immediately attacked. It could be for political, social, or cultural reasons. It doesn't matter. The dynamic is always the same. The herd unites against those who challenge their certainties. And the weapon used is always morality. Because when you have morality on your side, you can be cruel without guilt. You can destroy without remorse. After all, you're on the side of good. Now, go back to Socrates. He was killed over 2,000 years ago, but the pattern remains the same. Athens was a democracy. People were free, but Socrates was condemned. Why? Because he disturbed the consensus. He asked questions people didn't want to answer. He exposed the fragility of the moral certainties everyone repeated. And for that, he had to be eliminated. Not because he represented a real danger, but because he represented discomfort, a mirror that reflected collective cowardice. What's interesting is that Socrates could have fled. He had the chance, but he chose to stay and drink the hemlock. Why? Because he knew his death would prove exactly the point he always defended, that societies that call themselves free are often the most intolerant toward those who truly think differently. He preferred to die being authentic than to live bowing to consensus. And that choice echoed throughout the history of philosophy. because it shows that the price of thinking for yourself can be extremely high, but for some, it's worth it. Today, you're not physically killed for thinking differently, but you're destroyed in other ways. Your reputation is attacked, you're isolated, you lose opportunities, you're ridiculed. The method has changed, but the essence remains the same. Societies that pride themselves on being free still harshly punish those who dare to live outside the consensus. And all this attack always comes disguised as morality. People don't say they're attacking you because you make them uncomfortable. They say you're immoral, that you're dangerous, that you're wrong. Morality becomes the justification for crushing those who think differently. And most people don't even realize they're repeating Athens' same mistake. But why does this happen? Why do people become so cruel when someone challenges their moral certainties? Nietzsche had a disturbing answer. Because behind many moral judgments lies envy, resentment, and powerlessness. When you see someone living with freedom, with authenticity, making their own choices, it reminds you of everything you didn't have the courage to do. And that hurts. It hurts so much that you need to destroy that person to feel better. You need to prove they're wrong, that they're bad, that they deserve to be punished. Because if they're right, then you spent your whole life as a coward. The psychology behind moral judgments is fascinating and dark. Often, when we judge someone, we're not really defending a principle. We're reacting to an emotion. We're feeling envy of that person's freedom. We're feeling resentment for not having the same courage. We're feeling small before their greatness. And all these emotions are unbearable, so we transform them into moral judgment. We say the person is bad, immoral, wrong. But the truth is, they just reminded us of our own cowardice. And that's something most people can't bear. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a morality created by those who feel weak, by those who can't live with power and authenticity, so they invent rules that punish those who can. It's a morality of resentment. It doesn't seek to elevate anyone. It seeks to bring down those who are above. It seeks to create a false equality where everyone is equally weak, equally obedient, equally domesticated. And whoever doesn't accept this domestication, whoever lives with strength and freedom, needs to be destroyed, because their existence is a living accusation against all those who chose cowardice. There's something deeply addictive about the act of judging. When you point your finger at someone and say that person is bad, you automatically place yourself above them. You feel morally superior, and that gives a sense of power to those who normally feel small. That's why so many people live judging others. Not because they have firm principles, but because judgment makes them feel big. It's a secret, almost perverse pleasure. You could be failing in all areas of your life, but at least you're better than that person you're judging. This pleasure of judging is intense because it's easy. You don't need to do anything to feel superior. You just need to find someone to condemn. And today, with social media, this became even easier. You can judge people you don't even know. You can destroy reputations with a few clicks. You can join thousands of other judges and feel part of something bigger. The moral tribunal formed in the palm of your hand. And the temptation to use it is enormous, because each judgment gives you a dose of satisfaction, a momentary feeling that you matter, that you have power. But notice how this pleasure is empty. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't improve your life. It just gives you a temporary distraction from your own mediocrity. And that's why people get addicted to it. They live looking for the next target, the next person to condemn, the next opportunity to feel superior. And all of this is disguised as virtue. They say they're fighting for justice, for morality, for what's right. But deep down, they're just feeding a hungry ego and an empty soul. Moral judgment has become a collective addiction. The crowd has always been dangerous. When people gather in large numbers, something strange happens. They lose their individual sense of responsibility. They become part of something bigger, and in that process, they stop thinking for themselves. The crowd thinks for them. The crowd decides what's right, and the crowd can be extremely cruel. In Athens, it was the crowd that condemned Socrates. It wasn't a tyrant. It wasn't a dictator. They were ordinary citizens who raised their hands and said yes to his death. and they all went home believing they had done the right thing. Today, the moral tribunal of the masses manifested in a new way. Social media. You can wake up one day and discover that thousands of people are judging you, attacking you, condemning you. And these people don't know you. They know nothing about you beyond a fragment of information, often distorted. But that doesn't matter. The tribunal has already been formed. The sentence has already been given. And the execution happens in real time, in front of everyone. Your reputation is destroyed. Your life is turned upside down. And the people who did this return to their normal lives, believing they fought for justice. The parallel between Athens and today's digital world is frightening. In both cases, you have a crowd that believes itself to be just, that believes itself to be moral, but acts with merciless cruelty. In both cases, you have people who judge without knowing, who condemn without thinking, who destroy without remorse. And in both cases, morality is the weapon. Because when you have morality on your side, you can do anything. You can destroy lives, ruin families, spread lies, all in the name of what's right, all with the crowd's approval. And nobody feels guilty, because after all, they were all just defending morality. The truth is that the moral tribunal of the masses never cared about truth. It cares about consensus. If the majority decided you're guilty, then you're guilty. The facts don't matter. Justice doesn't matter. What matters is that the crowd needs a target, and you were chosen. And once the crowd chooses you, there's no escape. You can try to defend yourself, but your words will be distorted. You can try to explain, but nobody will listen. Because the crowd has already decided, and the crowd doesn't make mistakes. Or at least, that's what it believes. Authentic people generate a visceral reaction in others. When you see someone who lives outside the rules, who thinks for themselves, who doesn't bow to consensus, something inside you is awakened. For some, this generates admiration. But for most, it generates hatred. Why? Because authentic people function as a mirror. They reflect back to you all the times you were a coward, all the times you didn't have the courage to be yourself, all the times you chose the security of the herd instead of freedom. And seeing that reflected is unbearable. Authenticity is a threat because it exposes the collective lie. When everyone is pretending, when everyone is following rules that nobody really believes in, but everyone pretends to believe, the presence of someone authentic breaks this illusion. That person shows it's possible to live another way, shows you don't need to bow down, shows there's an alternative, and that's dangerous. Because if there's an alternative, then all your excuses fall apart. You can no longer say you had no choice. You had a choice. You just didn't have courage. That's why authentic people are hated so intensely. They didn't do anything wrong. They just lived according to their own convictions. But that's enough to generate hatred, fear, and envy. The herd needs to destroy them because their existence is an accusation. It says to each member of the herd, you could have been free, but you chose to be a slave. You could have thought for yourself, but you chose to repeat what everyone repeats. You could have lived with authenticity, but you chose the mask. And this silent accusation is unbearable for those who don't want to wake up to their own cowardice. What Nietzsche tried to show us is that this dynamic isn't accidental. It's structural. Herd morality was created precisely to crush those who dare to be different. It was created to keep everyone in line, to ensure that nobody stands out too much, that nobody thinks too differently, that nobody lives with too much freedom. Because individual freedom is a threat to the herd's cohesion, and the herd defends its cohesion tooth and nail. It attacks, it destroys, it kills, all to keep everyone equal, everyone obedient, everyone small. So when you see someone living with authenticity, understand what's happening. That person is paying a price. They're facing the hatred, the fear, the envy of all those who didn't have the courage to do the same. They're alone, often, because few have the courage to stand beside those who challenge consensus. They're being judged, attacked, condemned. And all this because they dared to be themselves, because they dared to think on their own, because they dared to live outside the herd's rules. And the herd never forgives that. Living outside consensus comes at a high cost. Loneliness. When you decide to think for yourself, when you decide not to follow the morality everyone follows, you distance yourself from the group. And that means you're alone. Because most people don't want to think. They want the security of the group. They want the certainty of ready-made rules. And when you don't offer that, when you live differently, they pull away. Not because you're bad, but because you make them feel uncomfortable. The loneliness of those who think for themselves is profound. It's not just the lack of people around. It's the lack of understanding. You can be in a room full of people and feel completely alone because nobody there understands what you think, what you feel, why you live the way you live. They look at you as if you were strange, as if you were wrong, as if you were a threat. And maybe you are a threat to the false peace they built around their empty certainties. This loneliness can be crushing. It can make you doubt yourself. It can make you think that maybe it's easier to just bow down, just accept the rules, just pretend you believe what everyone believes. And many people do exactly that. They give up authenticity because the loneliness is unbearable. They return to the herd, not because they believe in it, but because they can't bear to be alone. And the herd accepts them back as long as they never question again, never think again, never try to be themselves again. But some resist. Some choose loneliness over lies. They'd rather be alone than live pretending. They'd rather be misunderstood than be false. And these are the ones Nietzsche admired, because they have something most don't have: integrity. They're faithful to themselves, even when it costs everything, even when it means rejection, isolation, misunderstanding. They choose authenticity over comfort. And that's rare. That's precious. That's what separates those who truly live from those who just survive repeating what others command. The isolation of those who think for themselves isn't just social, it's existential. It's the feeling that you're alone in a world that doesn't understand you, that your ideas, your values, your way of seeing life find no echo in anyone, that you could scream and nobody would hear. And this feeling is suffocating. It can make you question your own sanity. After all, if everyone thinks one way and you think another, wouldn't it be more likely that you're wrong? Wouldn't it be easier to just accept that they're right and you're wrong? But that's the trap, because truth isn't determined by the majority. The majority can be completely wrong. History is full of examples of majorities that believed absurd things, that supported atrocities, that condemned innocence. The number of people who believe in something doesn't determine its truthfulness. And Nietzsche knew this. He knew that many times being alone is a sign that you're right, not wrong. Because when everyone thinks alike, it's more likely that nobody is truly thinking. The price of freedom is loneliness. But the reward of freedom is authenticity. It's living knowing you're faithful to yourself, that your choices are truly yours, that your life isn't a copy of anyone's life. And that, for some, is worth any price. Worth the loneliness, worth the misunderstanding, worth the rejection. Because in the end, when you look in the mirror, you see someone true. You see someone who had the courage to be themselves in a world that punishes authenticity. And that's more valuable than all the approvals you could get by pretending. But here's the thing. Not everyone needs to live this way. Most people prefer collective comfort to individual loneliness. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. The problem is when these people become hostile toward those who choose the different path. When they attack, when they condemn, when they try to force everyone to think like they think. Because then, the choice for the group's security transforms into tyranny. It transforms into herd morality that crushes any manifestation of individuality. There's a type of strength that doesn't need external validation. It's inner strength, the kind that allows you to stand when everyone around you is telling you to bow down, the kind that allows you to continue when everyone is telling you to quit. This strength doesn't come from the group. It comes from within you, and it's built day after day, each time you choose to be authentic, even when it's easier to pretend. Each time you choose to think for yourself, even when it's more comfortable to just repeat what everyone repeats. Inner strength is the opposite of collective comfort. Collective comfort offers you security, but charges you your freedom. It tells you, stay here, think like us, and you'll never be alone. And for many people, that's an irresistible offer. Because loneliness is scary. Because the responsibility of thinking for yourself is heavy. Because it's much easier to let the group decide for you. But the price of this ease is high. You lose yourself. You become just another one in the herd, indistinguishable from all the others, living a life that isn't truly yours. Inner strength demands that you face your fears. It demands that you look at the possibility of being wrong and still maintain your convictions. It demands that you accept that you'll be judged, that you'll be attacked, that you'll be misunderstood. And it demands that, despite all this, you continue being yourself. This isn't for everyone. But for those who develop this strength, something changes. They become immune to the group's pressure. They no longer need others' approval to know who they are. They become truly free. In history, we see examples of people who had this inner strength. People who challenged empires, who faced crowds, who maintained their convictions even in the face of death. And these people are remembered, not because they were popular in their time, but because they were authentic. Because they had the courage to be themselves even when the whole world was against them. And this courage resonates through the centuries. It inspires others to also develop their inner strength. It shows that it's possible to live outside consensus and not just survive, but thrive in spirit. The great irony is that the same societies that condemned these individuals in life later celebrate them as heroes. Socrates was killed by Athens, but today he's revered as one of the greatest philosophers of all time. This shows something important. The herd always condemns those who are ahead of their time, always attacks those who challenge their certainties. But later, when it's safe, when the threat has passed, the herd appropriates these individuals and transforms them into symbols, without ever admitting that they, the herd, were the ones who attacked them in the first place. Nietzsche understood this dynamic better than anyone. He wasn't interested in destroying values for the sake of destroying. He was interested in replacing weak morality, herd morality, with something greater, a morality created by the individual's inner strength. A morality that doesn't come from rules imposed from outside, but from convictions built from within. He called this the transvaluation of all values. It wasn't about abolishing morality, but about creating a new morality, a morality of strength, not weakness. Herd morality, according to Nietzsche, levels everyone downward. It seeks to make everyone equally weak, equally obedient, equally mediocre. It punishes excellence. It punishes strength. It punishes individuality. Because all these things are threats to the group's cohesion. But the morality Nietzsche proposed was the opposite. It celebrated strength. It celebrated individuality. It celebrated the courage to create your own values instead of just accepting the values you were given. This doesn't mean living without morality. It means living with authentic morality. A morality you truly believe in because you built it. A morality tested by your experience, refined by your reflection, strengthened by your choices. This morality is much more powerful than herd morality because it comes from within. It's not an empty shell, it's real. And when you live with this authentic morality, you become a threat to the herd. Because you show it's possible to live another way. You show that their morality is false, and they hate you for it. Nietzsche's call isn't to be cruel. It's not to do what you want without caring about anything. It's to be strong. It's to have the courage to think for yourself. It's to create values that elevate you and those around you, instead of just accepting values that bring everyone down. It's a call to individual greatness, not to stupid selfishness. It's a call for you to become who you truly are, instead of being just another copy of what everyone expects you to be. And this call resonates with anyone who has ever felt trapped in others' expectations, who has ever felt suffocated by rules that don't make sense, who has ever felt alone for thinking differently. But this call comes with a warning. Creating your own values, living with authenticity, thinking for yourself. All of this has a price, and the price is high. You'll be attacked, you'll be misunderstood, you'll be judged, and you'll be many times alone, because the herd doesn't forgive those who challenge their certainties. The herd attacks, and the attack always comes disguised as morality, always disguised as virtue. People will say you're arrogant, that you're dangerous, that you're immoral. They'll judge you without knowing you. They'll condemn you without listening. This is the price of challenging the herd. And it's not a symbolic price. It's real. It's painful. It's suffocating. In history, we've seen thinkers, artists, scientists, all paying this price. Galileo was forced to deny his discoveries. Giordano Bruno was burned alive. Socrates drank hemlock. And the list continues, crossing the centuries. Each era has its examples of people who challenged consensus and paid dearly for it. And each era believes it's different, that it learned from the past, that it wouldn't do the same. But it always does. Today, the price is different. You're not burned alive, but your life can be destroyed in other ways. You can lose your job. You can lose friends. You can have your reputation ruined. You can be socially isolated. You can be attacked by thousands of people on social media. And all this for what? For thinking differently, for not bowing to consensus, for having the audacity to live outside the rules everyone accepts. The method has changed, but the persecution remains the same. And what makes all this more cruel is that the persecutors always believe they're right. They don't see themselves as persecutors. They see themselves as defenders of morality, of justice, of what's right. They genuinely believe they're doing good by destroying you. And that's why they have no remorse. They have no doubts. They sleep peacefully at night, believing they fought for good. And they wake up the next day ready to find the next target, the next person who dares to challenge their certainties. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You can also be the persecutor. All of us can. Because it's easy, it's comfortable, it's satisfying to join the group and attack someone. It's satisfying to feel morally superior. It's satisfying to have the crowd on your side. And it's so easy to convince yourself that you're right, that the person you're attacking deserves it, that you're just defending important values. But stop and ask yourself, did you really think about this? Or are you just repeating what everyone is saying? Do you really know the whole story? Or are you judging based on fragments? Are you being fair? Or are you just looking for an excuse to feel superior? These questions are uncomfortable because they expose something we don't want to see. That maybe we're part of the problem. That maybe we're the herd. That maybe we're the cowards who hide behind morality. And accepting this is difficult. It's much easier to keep believing we're the good guys, that we're fighting for good, that others are the ones who are wrong. But if you have the courage to be honest with yourself, you might discover that it's not always that simple. The moment of greatest tension in the life of those who challenge consensus is when everyone turns against you, when you're alone and the crowd is pointing fingers, when you see in their eyes the condemnation, the hatred, the certainty that you're wrong. This is the moment when your authenticity is tested. This is the moment when you discover if you truly believe what you think, or if you were just pretending. Because it's easy to be authentic when nobody cares. It's easy to have convictions when nobody questions them. But when everyone is against you, when the pressure is unbearable, that's when you discover who you truly are. This moment is terrifying because your mind starts to doubt. Maybe they're right, maybe you're wrong. Maybe it's easier to just bow down, apologize, return to the herd. And many people do exactly that. They break under pressure. They give up their convictions. Not because they realized they were wrong, but because they couldn't bear to be alone against everyone. And there's no shame in that. It's human. Collective pressure is one of the most powerful forces that exists. Few can resist it. But those who resist, those who manage to remain firm when everyone points fingers, they discover something about themselves. They discover they're stronger than they imagined, that their convictions are real, that their authenticity isn't a pose, but something deep and true. And this discovery is transformative, because once you pass this test, Once you remain firm when everyone is against you, you're never the same again. You become truly free. Free from the need for approval. Free from the fear of judgment. Free to be who you truly are. This courage isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Each time you choose to be authentic, even when it's difficult, you're building this courage. Each time you maintain your convictions, even when they're unpopular, you're strengthening yourself. And each time you resist the group's pressure, you're freeing yourself a little more. Until a moment comes when others' opinions completely lose power over you. Not because you don't care about people, but because you learn that your integrity is more important than their approval. This journey isn't easy. It's painful. It's lonely. It's scary. But it's also the most valuable journey you can take. Because at the end of it, you're no longer a copy. You're no longer just another one in the herd. You're yourself. And that, in a society that does everything to turn everyone into identical copies, is an act of resistance. It's an act of courage. It's an act of greatness. Now, we arrive at the final point. How to free yourself from herd morality. Nietzsche doesn't offer an instruction manual. He doesn't give easy steps you can follow. Because freeing yourself from the herd isn't something you do by following someone else's rules. That would be a contradiction. But he offers a direction. He offers a call. An invitation for you to start thinking for yourself. To start questioning everything you were taught. To start building your own values instead of just accepting the values you were given. Freeing yourself from herd morality means stopping living on autopilot. It means starting to pay attention to your own choices. It means asking, every time you follow a moral rule, do I really believe this? Or am I just following it because everyone follows it? And if the answer is the second option, then you need to decide, are you going to keep following out of fear? Or will you have the courage to think on your own? There's no right answer for everyone, but there's a right answer for you, and only you can discover what it is. This process is scary, because when you start questioning everything, you lose the certainties that gave you security. You enter a zone of uncertainty where nothing is guaranteed. You might make mistakes, you might feel lost, you might doubt yourself, but this is the only way to build something authentic. You need to go through uncertainty. You need to question false certainties. You need to destroy imposed values to be able to build real values. And this doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, painful, but transformative process. Nietzsche admired those who had the courage to make this journey. Not because they were perfect, but because they were authentic. Because they chose to live with integrity, even when it cost everything. Because they preferred to be alone than to live lying. Because they had the inner strength to create their own values instead of just accepting the herd's values. And he believed these individuals were humanity's hope. Not because they were superior, but because they showed it was possible to live another way. That the prison of herd morality wasn't inevitable. That freedom was possible. Living with authenticity, even if alone, is an act of greatness. Not a greatness that seeks recognition. Not a greatness that needs approval, but a silent, deep, real greatness. It's the greatness of being faithful to yourself in a world that punishes authenticity. It's the greatness of thinking for yourself in a society that values obedience. It's the greatness of remaining firm when everyone points fingers. And this greatness doesn't need to be seen by anyone to be real. It exists in you. And that's enough. You don't need to be a philosopher. You don't need to be a hero. You just need to be honest with yourself. You need to have the courage to look at your choices and ask if they're truly yours, or if they're just reflections of what others expect from you. You need to have the courage to change when you realize you're living a lie. You need to have the courage to stand firm when you realize you're living a truth. And you need to have the courage to accept that this journey will cost you something. It will cost you others' approval. It will cost you the group's security. It will cost you, sometimes, companionship. But it will give you something much more valuable: yourself. Nietzsche isn't asking you to be cruel. He's not asking you to despise others. He's asking you to be strong, to have the courage to live with authenticity, to create values that elevate you and those around you, instead of just accepting values that bring everyone down. He's asking you to think, to question, to not accept anything just because everyone accepts it. And he's warning you, this journey isn't easy, but it's the only one worth taking, because at the end of it, you're no longer just another one in the herd. You're yourself, and that, in a world of copies, is revolutionary. So look around you. How many people do you know who truly think for themselves? How many truly live according to their own convictions instead of just repeating what's popular? The answer will probably scare you, because most don't think, most don't live. Most just exist, repeating ready-made phrases, following empty rules, attacking those who dare to be different. And maybe you're doing this too. Maybe you're also part of the herd. But the good news is, you can change. You can start thinking. You can start questioning. You can start truly living. And it all starts with a simple question. Do I really believe this? Or am I just pretending? Herd morality remains strong. It's everywhere. It's on social media, in companies, in schools, in families. It's telling you how to think, how to act, how to live. And it's punishing you if you dare to step out of line. But it only has power while you believe in it. The moment you realize it's just a construction, that it's just a tool of control, it loses power over you. You become free. And this freedom is scary, but it's also the most precious thing you can have, because it's your freedom, it's your life, and only you can decide how you're going to live it. Nietzsche didn't live to see his ideas be accepted. He died alone, misunderstood, attacked by many. But he lived with integrity. He thought for himself. He created his own values. And today, over a century later, his ideas remain alive, continue challenging, continue inspiring those who have the courage to think. Because authentic truth doesn't die. It can be attacked, it can be distorted, it can be rejected, but it remains alive, because it's real. And what's real always finds those who have enough courage to see it. You're surrounded by cowards who hide behind morality. This isn't a judgment, it's an observation. Most people don't have the courage to think for themselves. And that's sad, but it's reality. But you don't need to be like them. You can choose another path. You can choose to think. You can choose to question. You can choose to be authentic. And yes, it will cost. It will hurt. It will be lonely. But it will be worth it. Because in the end, when you look back, you'll see a life that was truly yours. Not a copy of anyone's life. Not a comfortable lie. But a difficult, painful, but real truth. And this truth will free you in a way that herd morality never could. The choice is yours. You can stay in the herd, safe, comfortable, but empty. Or you can take the first step outside. You can start thinking for yourself. You can start building your own values. You can start living with authenticity. And when you do this, when you take that first step, something will change inside you. You'll discover a strength you didn't know you had. You'll discover a freedom you never experienced. And you'll discover that, even alone, you're stronger than the whole herd together. Because you have something they don't have. You have yourself. If these ideas touched you, if something inside you recognized the truth in what was said here, then you've already started to awaken. You've already started to see beyond the comfortable lies that most accept without questioning. Don't let this awakening die. Cultivate it. Question everything. Think for yourself. Build your own values. And have the courage to live according to them, even when everyone is against you. Because that's the only way to truly live. If you want to continue this journey, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if this content made you think, if it challenged you in some way, leave your like. This helps the video reach other people who are also seeking to think for themselves. Share it with those you think need to hear this. And in the comments, tell your experience. Have you ever felt pressured to think like everyone else? Have you ever had to choose between authenticity and group approval? Let's continue this conversation. Until the next video.